Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about eyes, but before I do that, I just want to say if you're new to the channel, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. We break down drawing videos here, anatomy, perspective, comic books, anything art related I like to talk about here and give a little bit of help to those who are started or have been drawing a little bit and just need that extra kick. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to be talking about eyes today, so let's go ahead and start off with a basic circle. You want to keep your anatomy and your fundamentals sound. And the best way to do that is to keep it simple. So just start off with this circle. It does not have to be perfect. Don't break out a stencil or anything like that. Just get as close as you can. Make sure you're drawing from the shoulder. Add a vertical line is perfectly halfway as you can. Then a horizontal line. That is going to give you the center of your eye. You can add your little pupil in and your iris around it. Not gonna lie, if I ever mess up anatomical terms, I know the area, but I may not know the name. So feel free to call me out if I call anything wrong. This was quick. That is how quick it can be as far as the eyeball is concerned. It's one of the simplest parts of the human anatomy. So normally you might have that almond shape right there. That's a no. That's not what the eye is shaped like. That is how we see the eye due to the eyelids. And so I want to break that down today. Really, when people are having troubles with eyes, what they're struggling with is how the eyelids contour around the eye. And so I want to show real quick kind of what that looks like and break down the eyelids specifically in just a moment. So working on the lower part, it wraps around. Notice the curve, how it angles up slightly. So it angles just below halfway on the eye on the right side, our right side, up slightly to about halfway on our left side, and vice versa for the top lid. So you have a general shape, this sort of almond shape that most people recognize when they look at eyes. But again, that's due to the eyelid, and you want to understand why the eyelid looks that way, and also the structure and anatomy of the eyelid itself. The eyelids actually have a bit of depth, a bit of thickness to them. We think of them in real life, of course, they're obviously very thin. But if you zoom in, you'll see this. I'm drawing this underline right here. That is the actual part of the eyelid that touches the eyeball. And it's a very thin section, but it is a little bit of depth that if you can add this to your drawings, it pulls off a much more realistic look. Even if you're not attempting to go for a hyper-realistic drawing style, you still need to know this. It'll still go a long way in your drawings, no matter what kind of style. You need to know those kinds of rules in order to just pull off a more convincing look, no matter what style you're going for. So I'm going to kind of erase a couple things, clean it up, and help us see this a little bit better. I'm moving fast here, but that's also, the eyes are actually very simple once you understand how they work and how to build them. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up real quick. Just very light, sketchy kind of look today. You can go quite in depth, and I always say break out the photo reference and refer to. I always like to use that if I'm adding a lot of shading to the actual eye, because there's usually shading on the actual eyeball. Most people leave that out. Don't do that. It's a very, very light value, but it is there. But for that kind of thing, I tend to just use photo reference, honestly. Make sure it matches with my light source and all that stuff. But use that. That's a secondary. We're going to keep it sketchy right now because I'm just concerned with the structure for today. So, basic eye put in. I'm going to kind of clean up just a couple more things. This will get you far. Now, notice it is a very wide looking eye. It looks like someone, if this is on a person, maybe they're seeing something shocking. So do be aware of how your eyelids, how open they are or how closed they are, how they affect the look, the emotion that your person is conveying. All right, not bad there. Let's go ahead and jump over, and I want to talk a little bit more about specifically the eyelids and kind of break down those a little bit more in particular, along with the eyelashes. So I'm going to shape what they look like. Notice the angles there are slightly tilted down. If you look from the left to right end, slightly tilted down, not at a 45-degree angle. Maybe they're tilted about 15 degrees, but there is that slight slant. So, make sure you're keeping that in your work. The eyeball will stay centered itself, but it's the eyelids around it that are slanted somewhat. So you got the thickness of the tear ducts that you could see. I'm going to clean up on the inside a little bit there. And if you want to start out by drawing the eyeball first and, breaking it down, the vertical and horizontal lines and everything, I do recommend that if you're new to drawing. I think there's a place and it's okay for you to overdraw things a little bit when you're very first starting out, because it will help you build up a very sound anatomical foundation. And the fundamentals, as with anything, are the most important. Those are so key. You want to start off really nailing those down before you worry about the more, maybe the flashy flare type stuff. So if you want to draw the entire eyeball and then add the eyelids around it, that's just fine. So I wanted to point out real quick the thickness again of the top and lower eyelid. It's not super thick, but it is noticeable, especially maybe if you never recognized that before. Next time you're looking at photographs of people, kind of look for that, kind of see how thick it is, look at the shape of it, look at the angles of how the skin moves around the eye. Now, quick word on eyelashes. I am kind of just flicking these about. These are sort of like hatching lines. But notice how I'm keeping them at different angles. They're a little bit random. That's exactly what you want with something like eyelashes. You don't want them to be completely uniform, straight lines. They're not straight lines. They crisscross each other. They move at odd, awkward angles. They're not all pointing in the same direction. They're not all bunched together, right, one after the other. They're sometimes unevenly spaced apart. Go ahead and add that, and it'll give a little bit more realism to your work. This, I'm going to add a quick example. This is more comic book style of, say, a female eye. So I'm going to outline the shape of the eyelashes. These are like really thick, boisterous eyelashes. Just to kind of give a counter example. So, this is for those who are going in a bit more of a cartoony style. It's the same rules, same principles, just applied slightly differently. So with these eyelashes, I group them all together. And then at the tips, I will add just a few lashes that are poking out of the general shape. I'm going to go in with a pen here, thicken this up and darken it, just help us see it a little bit better. Make it really quick. Fill this in. And I'm just going to let me finish this eye first, the outline of it. Here we go. And don't feel like you have to draw everything. Notice how I or other artists will leave out certain sections. You can really get away with implying that something's there rather than having to draw the entire thing. Maybe that's another conversation we can have. So I'm just going to add a couple bits of hairs just sticking out of outside of the general shape. My dog is scratching himself. Good Lord. There you go. Bloopers. So just a few hairs just to stick outside the general shape. That's a fine example for a comic book, or you can stick with the more realism side. Okay, we have the front-facing view. I do want to help give examples for, drawing the eye at different angles. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick. So looking over here, let's get my tools right first. We'll go ahead and start from scratch again using the entire eye. We'll go ahead and overdraw a little bit just so we can really understand what's going on beneath the skin a bit more. All right, so gotta put in, and we'll find The curvature, I'm going to use these two lines like that around it. Imagine the string wrapped around a tennis ball, just like how we broke down the head. And I'm going to say it's looking off and to the right. We'll find our top line, wrapping around the eyeball, halfway. Now, notice it's halfway, but it's in perspective, so it's not directly in the middle. Halfway and the middle aren't always the same, depending on the angle you're looking at. So find it halfway vertical, halfway horizontal, and then that'll give you the dead center of your eye that you can build your pupil and iris around. If you're struggling with perspective, break out an actual tennis ball, put some string around it, wrap it, and then you can use it and look at it at different angles and just see how it moves and practice drawing that. It'll really help build up your perspective. Okay, so I want to start building the top eyelid, making sure to include the thickness of it there. And then we can go lower. Now we're not going to see near as much of that thickness because of the angle we're at on the lower, so just keep that in mind. A lot of that you'll notice, you'll really pick up looking at photographs. Just get rid of what we don't need. Clean up some of this. Okay, now we need to understand also, not just the structure of the eye itself, but where the eye is sitting. So I want to just kind of quickly give an example of, we'll just put the eye socket in, because that's going to dictate the folds of the eyelids around the eye and where the eyebrows are placed, and it just helps to give a little bit more context to where things are placed and how they react to one another. So really quick eye socket here. It's kind of the shadow of it. And get this placed in here. So you got your eye socket, and your eyeball is going to sit in the center of it, roughly around here. Right? Something like this. So it's going to sit dead center, and then you can understand how the eyelids contour from the brow down. That's where you would place your eyebrow. And so from there, just gives a little bit more of an understanding how the folds work the way they do. So I'm going to add a little bit to this, just giving that example of the eye socket, because we're going to place our brow sitting right on top of our top eyelid. And so that's going to cut off a bit of the eye from our perspective, from what we can see. Go ahead and darken this so we can just see it a little bit easier. Okay, add this in. Notice how that lid is wrapping in step with the eyeball itself. So you can make objects react to each other naturally, or make them appear, give that illusion, then it's just going to make your drawings just so much more well-rounded and convincing. Okay, tidy this up. You got the bottom of the eye socket hitting right there. We'll add some eyelashes in. Just going to put these in really quick. Again, notice this is a very open eye, and so this is just for the example. I'll go ahead and show some examples of regular expressions with the eyes in a bit, but for now we'll leave this open look, and we'll go ahead and we'll finish the eye. Maybe we'll add in the eyebrow as well, just to help kind of give the full look of it. Quickly. Yeah. Okay, we'll throw up some sort of a eyebrow up here. Just darken this really quick. And make sure, again, if your person's eyes are wide open, that's going to mean that their eyebrows are raised, right? So, everything has to react to each other. Those eyebrows are pulling the skin up, which makes the eyes widen. So you want those eyebrows raised. Okay. And just fix some of this real quick. Cap off the top of that lid. Kind of lower that brow just a little bit over it. It'll have a little bit of a shadow cast on top of it. Put that in there. You might see a end of the tear duct, just a little bit of it, depending. Let's go ahead. Yeah, why not add the other side really quick? Yeah. Okay, that's good. We get the idea. All right, so that's roughly a 3/4 view of the eye. We could go ahead and, why not? Let's go ahead and do the eye really quick in a profile view, just to round everything out. All right, start off, we'll do the full eye again. That's not halfway, that's more halfway. We won't put the vertical line in because of the extreme angle we're looking at. We're just going to use the horizontal. So I hope you can see why there. Add in the pupil iris. It would be bigger than that, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and... there we go. All right, so we got the side view. Now we got to think about how the skull is going to wrap around this and what that's going to do with the eyelids. So we'll put these in. You're going to see a part, again, of the thickness of the eyelids, but at this extreme of an angle, you're not going to see the full length of it. You're not going to see every edge of it. So it's going to thin out as it gets closer to us just because of our angle. Okay, I'll go ahead and darken it up again. So take time when learning this stuff, when practicing and studying, to study things. I've said this before, but be intentional about it. If you're just now learning to draw eyes, start with eyes facing forward, and then you can move to how to see eyes, what they look like at a 3/4 angle or a top down, all these different angles. Focus on one at a time. Get it down, get a good understanding of it before you move on. I would not recommend trying to learn eyes by drawing all angles at once. I would get good probably at just the front-facing view, just because that's the most common way. Probably if maybe if you're drawing a portrait or something, or just for learning. Do it like that before moving on to different angles, and take it one angle at a time. And soon enough, you'll get a really good understanding of the anatomy of the eye and how it fits in with the rest of the skull, to where you'll be able to really have a good understanding. You should be able to sort of 3D model it, so to speak, in your mind, and be able to lay things out. And you'll be able to remember a lot of what you study, of course. And as always, there's, reference should be handy if you ever get stuck or unsure if you've drawn something correct. So I'm going to dim the eye a little bit just to show some different expressions. You might be a little bit more squinty, a little bit more curious, or maybe your character is crying, right? Kind of a sad eye. Maybe your character is angry, so look at the arches of the eyebrows and how that's going to affect the appearance of the eye to us. So you got the brow hanging over. It's sort of squinting around that eye. It's a more aggressive looking angular eye, definitely a male eye. So you're going to see a lot less of the pupil there. Darken that in. Yep. and then, how the skin reacts around the eye. That's great. Those are great details to add. A more feminine eye, for an example, women's eyes tend to be larger than men's. So over here, I'll give two examples just to help illustrate this a little bit better. This eye can be a lot more wide open, a lot larger, the eyelash is thicker, and there we go. It's a bit more of a better example of a female eye, and then I'll do the same angle for a male eye. Things are going to be a lot more angular. The lines are more direct, to the point, less curvy, and maybe a little bit smaller as well. So there we go, right there. All right. So that'll just about do it for our eyes today. Eyes are super important. The way you show them off, how much you show, the expressions they convey. So go ahead, learn your anatomy, study this stuff. Thank you guys for joining me today. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and leave me in the comments what you would like to learn next. Thank you guys. Bye.